Hi, so we're here with another episode of the Impact Series by 40. Today I am delighted to be alongside Sergey Ivliev from a company, a climate tech company called Vlinder, who are in the mangrove reforestation and blue carbon space. So look, Sergey, thanks very much for joining me on this today and agreeing to participate. Let's just jump straight into it. So, Sergey, look, please give us, I suppose, perhaps a better intro and an overview of Vlinder.
So hi, Leighton. Hi, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here. So yeah, Vlinder. Vlinder is the name actually comes from the Dutch word butterfly. So butterfly is is our kind of collective phenomena where you can have a small change, small action, and then it can turn into a sort of big change, like on the planetary scale, like a butterfly effect. Yep. So we envision this company doing some small impactful things which can then be sort of scaled up and contribute to, first of all, to the reversal of the climate change problem, but then also contribute to climate justice, help global south, and improve this transparency of this carbon markets in general. So we are based in Austria and as well as Liechtenstein, but our team is pretty much across several countries in Europe.
Okay. And I mean, excellent. So to give me a bit more of an overview, or give us a bit more of an overview as to exactly, I suppose, the problem that you've identified and the Vlinder solution to that problem. What is it you're exactly building?
So we are building a company which is focusing on mangrove restoration. So we specifically develop and finance mangrove restoration projects globally. And we make them investable. So we create structures like forward agreements and even tokenized forward agreements and like in the Web3 space, so that people and companies, investors and off-takers can actually participate in the mangrove restoration and get access to this highest quality blue carbon units. And I think the problem with this is that in general is a kind of a bit disillusionment in terms of the quality of the carbon market, and we've seen it in the press, and also it reflects in the prices of carbon units is getting down and all-time low for quite a while, because markets don't understand the quality. It's a lot of examples of not great acting in the space, and the quality is an issue. I think it's the bottleneck of the carbon markets really to scale. And on one side you have this durable technical removals, which are no questions about additionality and long permanence, and just that they have to improve the efficiency, to become affordable for the market buyers. And on the other side, there is nature-based solutions, and we focus on specific, very niche and very unique nature-based solutions such as mangroves restoration, blue carbon, so that become it make it scale the supply and make it available to the market. I think this our key mission, to scale up to enable the restoration of mangroves for the order of the 1 million hectare, and which is probably what was lost in the last 2 decades.
Okay, so you're again, like other businesses in which we've spoken to and we've had feature on this series before, you're utilizing the power of Web3, blockchain, smart contract based technology for the transparency and within or I suppose to demonstrate and prove the credibility of the projects in which you promote.
Yeah, I mean, the Web3 is one of the facets of our, I think, of Vlinder, and it comes from our, first of all, from our experience, historical experience with Web3. I mean, before it was called Web3, in 2017 we have launched a campaign and crowd sale of a token which was called Free Coin, which helped to fund like 1 million mangroves to be planted in Myanmar carbon project.
Mm-hmm.
And this money was actually used to plant trees and certify the project with Vera. And then later, after a few years, the credits are now being sent to the issued to the project and then been shared back to the initial community of funders through the DAO. So like this sort of way that you can actually fund critical moments the project from
Right.
let's say a crowd, and then have this then the create a long-term structure which helps the project, and then still enables the some kind of a reward for community back to the initial funders. Like that structure was fascinating. So like you could do stuff at scale, and we actually started on two fronts. On one side, we create enough supply that we can tokenize some some forwards, and for this we started the projects, mangrove restoration projects in Kenya and now also in Senegal, and also financed projects in Myanmar and Indonesia, to make this supply come to the market.
Okay.
And from the other end, we try to create structures which are fully compliant and investable and sort of de-risked enough so that the refi investors can participate in this in funding of those early stage mangrove restoration projects. So both sense are important, and we try to do our best on those.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Makes perfect sense. Look, go into, if you would, just give some a bit more information about or a few more details around why mangroves versus, I don't know, trees, for instance. What's the science behind that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm personally very excited about mangroves. I've looked at various types of possible, how you can sequester carbon, technical removals and biochar and nature-based solutions agroforestry. For me, specifically mangroves are kind of outstanding, for a few reasons. First of all, it's one of the highest carbon sequestration potential in terms of how many CO2 you can store both in the biomass and below ground biomass and the soil carbon. And actually mangroves, they store up to 4 or 5 times more than terrestrial trees, including rainforests. Secondly, it's really fast growing species. So it grows around the equator and sun, and it has enough water from the ocean. So because it grows in the tidal area near the shore, and they have enough, so they're not very susceptible for droughts. They only need a little bit of fresh water when they plant them to make sure they survive and grow.
Right.
That you need to take
Once
care.
They're established,
yeah,
they then use the salt water or draw from the ground. Right. Yep.
Yeah, they're pretty resilient and they grow faster than any other types of trees. Most of the types of trees. Then because they act as a boundary between the ocean and the the shore, they act like a protector. On one side, they protect the shore from the oceans. If, for example, you assume there is a tsunami hits the ocean, the mangrove belt of 500 meters is capable to stop the
right.
the large tsunami actually.
Okay. So practically they keep the ground together, they keep the ground intact, and they
keep the ground. They don't let the soil from the let's say the shore come to the ocean. They protect the soil from the ocean as well. It's a home of so many species. It's a home of hundreds of sea life species like oysters and crabs and It's like a nurse. It's like a bit of the kindergarten for like small fishes in the roots. And it's also acts as a part of the larger ecosystem. You have the seaweed then and the corals, and like it's all feed each other, and it's all important. Like if you remove, let's say, mangrove, then the seaweed will die and the corals will degrade. So like it's very kind of connected and very important ecosystems. And like I've seen some numbers. Of course, people try to value these ecosystems, like in general, the biodiversity and the social importance. I've seen numbers like mangroves are like 1 hectare of mangroves generates $200,000 worth of roughly annually the ecosystem services. It's not like the money; it's just like the richness of these ecosystems for the communities which live there, for nature. So like it's one of the highest, most sort of valuable ecosystem per hectare. And of course, if you invest in the restoration, like it's probably you'll have the highest impact per dollar spent, both on biodiversity but also on social, because you employ the local population, which are typically villages. They live nearby, they live below the poverty line in most of the cases. Like so you, by just doing the project, you already lift them a lot.
Okay.
And
that's like social mobility, upward mobility. It's investing in the people actually planting the mangroves.
Yeah. They have the capacity. They understand this is their area. They have like they it's like their home. So you engage them as not just a workforce, but basically as a co-owners into this project. Like in Kenya, for example, we practice this kind of adoption. So every family, they kind of adopt some hectares. They plant them, and then we have a long-term benefit sharing scheme, like where the part of carbon credits is in the future is supposed to be shared, like basically to those families, long-term, like for 30 years until the project duration is finished. And so it's a very important scheme that is not only one-time upfront payment that people just plant trees and then they tend not to think about it anymore. It's a long-term engagement to multiple generation that they actually have this forest that they restored, and they'll keep on caretaking of this forest. So they will keep on replanting if needed. So like it's their product as well.
It's theirs, yeah. You empower local communities essentially to maintain and to I suppose enable like the longevity of the mangrove plantations, right?
Exactly. Yes. And I think this is exactly how the carbon project should be structured. Like you should have a long-term sustainable models for the carbon projects, like very in line with this climate kind of justice debate, that the beneficiaries of the project should be the local communities, like maybe in the first case.
Yeah. Which is why, interestingly, there's been it's quite a big topic at the moment, in the press, not just the industry press, but in like the national and global press, around the validity of certain claims that were listed on Vera and wherever else in terms of their impacts. And it's not just as simple as planting a tree and forgetting about it. There's, like you say, there's a whole, you've got to think about the longevity, but there's also like a whole social angle to it as well, which it sounds like you're kind of bridging. You're kind of offering a solution to all of that essentially.
Well, that's why I think it's kind of the no regret kind of ideal way of climate projects. You can actually create good for the planet, for the people, and also like this is also like express itself in the quality. Like it's additional permanent, and permanence actually is guaranteed by not just the project duration, but also you can extend it to the conservation later. So it could be hundreds of years of permanence if it's left undisturbed, this ecosystems.
Right. Okay.
So
in terms of company wise, more about Vlinder. So just give us a brief overview perhaps of the journey so far, and then I always ask this question, but maybe what the next 6 to 12 months looks like in the evolution of the business.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty exciting journey. I mean, we started not from mangroves, we started from like a fintech app and tried to make something on the distribution side to make actually people understand the footprint and somehow try to act on it. And then we realized, yeah, it's just not enough high quality carbon supply and carbon removal supply. So gradually we kind of shifted from the purely fintech angle into, I would say, project development and like get our hands dirty and go to the mud and like establish the the area where we can plant. So it's a kind of a journey into this, but then we still try to keep our heads around like how we can finance it better, because I think the biggest problem is the lack of finance still. So you have eco-heroes, you have communities, you have areas to be restored, like you have like a momentum here, but still the funding is still like there is not a good match, and we think that it's a role of Vlinder to play. So of course we have our own supply, but we also want to help others based on our knowledge, like what is a good project, like how to help them technically and financially to improve their setup in a way that becomes investable, like de-risk it in a way that it's a solid project to to participate. And so we of course have like this project such as Kenya and Senegal and Indonesia. So like in total, I think we have already aim to like remove around 3 million tons of CO2 like by mangroves. This is our current scale, but we want to of course get 10x of that in the next 5 years. So we know there is a pipeline, but then we need to bring funding, because it's all expensive, it's all upfront. You need to pay like people for making nurseries to like trench the holes in the soil and then plant the trees. Like it's a lot of upfront labor and like other sort of like project execution costs. And then of course for that you need to have a capital like in the range of millions and maybe tens of millions. And then it comes to the basically creating a market for this. And market works well when you have clear price benchmarks and quality benchmarks. So we work on the quality benchmarks. Of course, we try to make it a top quality with all the possible certifications. On top of there is also CCP, Community Biodiversity Standard, and SD Vista, where you can certify each of the SDG sub-goal, like how to actually verify the impact that you made on the ground. And then on terms of price transparency, we want to create some instruments like forwards. Recently, we've launched like a pilot with Senken Marketplace.
Senken,
where we offered like a 2025 vintage year 500 tons of blue carbon forwards on the platform, just to set up some kind of price benchmarks, discount benchmarks to spot, so that people actually would know like this price signal is a high quality carbon. It's also still have a room for the even if you're an investor, you can have actually an upside to earn from this discount to spot. So the spot is even more valuable because it's already verified. So this sort of experiments, pilots, we want to continue to build this market. It's not existent yet. It's a very small niche market. Even refi in general is more about the spot carbon, and forward is like it's just a few pilots that we see.
Yeah, so Senken are I suppose one of our partners, or we've worked with Senken previously, and I know that they're very excited about the future of like carbon forwards, and it's an area in which they're kind of pioneering. And I know that your Vlinder and Senken are have got a partnership, which is kind of why we ended up speaking in the first place, interestingly enough. But look, I think it's not lost of the potential of the carbon forwards as a way of like financing projects and look, maximizing impacts. And in closing, you talked about 3 million tons of CO2, but it is the initial goal. But you feel as though that at scale you could 10x it. Was that what you said? 10x?
Yeah, 10x. Like we already see the pipeline of like let's say projects based on like what we have discovered potential in some other countries like Indonesia and Myanmar and Ghana and Madagascar. So we could actually go and over the next 5 years increase it like at least 10 times the sequestration rate. And this is both expertise and project work and funding. That is kind of the key elements to this.
Yeah. Wow. That's a big number. That's a big number, and you know, not only a big target, but you know, getting bigger. Being able to 10x that it would be an amazing achievement. Amazing achievement.
Yeah, but it's like a drop in the ocean of what you need to really change change the direction of the ship of the Titanic that it's now moved to the iceberg. Yep. So we need to make a lot of effort. Imagine like if just only meet the like non-abatable emission targets of net zero companies by 2030, you would need 500 million tons, and like that's how like it should be at least by like in 7 years.
Yeah.
And to get to the scale, there's a lot of upfront investments we need to make now to plant trees, or like to develop hardware for like durable removal, so that it's able to sequester this amount of CO2, and it should be removed so avoidance is like less impactful. So avoidance is also is a must-have. We need to decarbonize, but also we must start removing the rest.
It's a question of carbon as well. Yeah, look, it's you know, I've said this before with previous people that I've spoken to on this. It's not going to be one company, or it's not going to be down to like an individual to fix this. It's a collective effort. It's going to take, you know, hundreds of thousands of companies similar to Vlinder and other companies within the climate tech spec to be able to do this. But also it comes down to the individuals as well. You know, there's got to be individual contribution. People have got to change their behaviors and look to make like marginal improvements from like a sort of sustainability perspective or emissions perspective. So but look, it's you're definitely making some impact, and yeah, it's a really interesting story actually, how you can go from an idea to actually boots on the ground, and you know, investing in such projects that are creating such impact, such scalable impact as well.
No, totally. What you just mentioned is exactly at the core DNA of Vlinder, like the butterfly effect. If you change your behavior, if you kind of explain it to your friend, and like it can, if it's real and if it's like viral, it will propagate. And of course, everyone knows everyone on the plane, right? So the maybe 6 degrees of separation.
6 degrees of separation, yeah.
So we can reach, if the idea is powerful, it can actually reach the whole, like look at how fast the ChatGPT kind of reach out, so the whole sort of like the whole humanity. So in the same way, if you have an idea which kind of clicks, then it will propagate.
Absolutely. Well, look, here's hoping, and that was yeah, I mean, let's that was a great closing statement, but no, that was an amazing I suppose example of the butterfly effect. So it circled back nicely to why you started the company and where you got the name from in the first place. So look, Sergey, thank you very much for agreeing to jump on this. Thanks for sharing your story. And look, I personally look forward to continuing to sort of stay in contact, but more so see what the future holds for Vlinder.
Thanks, later. It was a real pleasure, and thanks for all the education work that you do.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sergey.